The Rainy 75 was a pivotal keyboard for the budget keyboard scene. Y'all loved it, y'all ate it up, and for good reason. It was an unbelievably good board for the price. It came with a full build, that nice convenient 75% layout, really good material quality, gasket mount, and all for $100. And in its review, I talked a little bit about Wobkey themselves, which I usually wouldn't do, but there was a lot of red flags with them. Namely that they didn't exist. At the time, they were a total ghost, so I was really worried about reliability. Things seem much better now, since the Rainy 75 is being sold on Amazon, so not as scammy. And that board was their first project, so it did have some hiccups, understandably. I've heard things like pretty bad customer support, but the important thing is that no one got scammed, which is probably more common than you might think for a keyboard hobby. But everyone got their board, and the feedback for the board itself has been pretty good. And Wobkey is back, this time with a budget 10 keyless keyboard, the Crush 80. But it starts at $65 more, almost 1.5 times the price. But I still think this is the best budget TKL, at least of this year, and in its price range, mainly for one reason, and we'll get into it. So here's the carrying case. It's pretty standard. We have Wob on here. Open it up. Got an aluminum plate. This has a lot of flex cuts on it. So this plate is definitely extra because we should already have a pre-build with this board. The gasket mount is on the PCB, not on the plate, so we don't have any of the mounts here. And of course, some instructions that we probably won't ever look at. In here is a super basic USB-C cable and also a super generic keycap and switch puller. Just like the Rainy 75, here we have extra switches. Probably won't need these. These are the Kailh Cocos. They're 45 gram linears. They sound pretty good. This is extra screws. I should not have dumped that out. Oh no. These might be for the bottom weight because this board has a catch ball now, which means that the cases connect together without screws. And this looks like another set of extra screws. Oh, I guess not. Okay, this is gaskets and bottom feet. And of course, this keyboard has VIA, so you're gonna get all the functionality and customization of any standard custom keyboard. Here's the board itself. Oh, we've also got some mysterious foam under it. This looks like just an extra sheet of case foam, although it's really thin, so it might just be some electrostatic foam. But I'm not sure why this isn't already in the board. So we've got the same blue color as last time. Oh, and this looks very similar to what Neo has been doing lately, the detachable bottom accent piece. And this board is wireless, so we get a USB dongle that hides pretty neatly under this accent. Okay, so first impressions, it's incredibly similar to my Rainy 75. The keycaps are actually a different print, which is interesting to note. The new ones aren't as thick on the alphas, even though they are the same double shot PVT material. But the colors are the same, the non-alphas and the mods look the same, even the case color is the same, which is totally fine. And the quality's still there. But there are definitely a lot of new things here, and the biggest you're going to notice is RGB. So we have a new badge on the right, and also these down-firing sort of strips that are actually really bright. I think it's also just the angle they're at here, since usually keyboards have their side RGB firing outwards, which doesn't reflect well on tables. So if RGB is your thing, the Crush 80's got you. The case is also dual tone, so mine has this white part under the blue that has the bottom weight and accent. And if you've been around the custom keyboard hobby, this bottom is going to look really familiar to you because it's basically the exact same design as the QK75N with the shape, the accent, just the overall silhouette. And that's a little strange, a little unoriginal, but okay. It's not straight up copying because it's not a 75% keyboard, but it's getting dangerously close. And then we have this really interesting material for the weight that looks almost like an alligator print type thing, which is totally different from the glossy one that the Rainy 75 came with. So a lot of similarity, but there's still some key differences, especially with the bottom. So far, everything is holding up with the Rainy 75, and the sound profile is basically no different. The board is stuffed full of foams, so you're going to get that classic PE foam sound signature with a really loud pop. And that, combined with the keycaps being PBT, means that the spacebar has this high-pitched, almost clicking sound. This is something that I really dislike, but obviously you have free will, and you can take out the foams and modify it however you want. But when we did that with the Rainy 75, we got pretty bad results, and that's probably going to be the case here. Granted that the Rainy 75 had a PP plate, and here we have an FR4 plate, which should be a little more rigid and high-pitched. But there's just so many flex cuts throughout the PCB and plate that if you want to take the foams out, you should probably do some sort of tape modding to make it less tinny sounding. The boards are kind of just made for being super foamed up, and that makes it feel really dense too. So like, even though there are a ton of flex cuts, it's not making the board feel softer. There's just not physically enough room for the PCB to be flexing. It seems like there's some contradiction here. This was the exact same gripe that I had with the Rainy 75. Take away the flex cuts in the PCB because it's going to help the sound a lot, and the board isn't flexing anyway. Glad to see that they've completely ignored this. That aside, I like the included switches. They're on the higher pitch side, just like the ones in the Rainy 75, and they're pretty smooth. Not the smoothest, but I definitely run these stock with no problem. And lastly, but probably most importantly, are the stabilizers. They're custom plate-mounted stabilizers from Wobkey, and they're alright. They're fine enough to daily drive, but if I were taking apart the board and modding it, they're the first thing I would reloop. But none of this puts the board above the Rainy 75, and yeah, sure, it's bigger, but not 1.5 times bigger. So why do I think that even with this price increase, this board is still the best budget TKL? Technology. So about a year ago, a keyboard design studio called Matrix Lab released a keyboard, the Matrix Corsa, and this board came with a really unique feature, at least to custom keyboards, a way to close and open it without using screws. Wait, what? It's called the catch ball mount, and that's basically what it does. Inside the bottom of the keyboard is a component that holds 2 ball bearings, and inside the top case is something that latches onto those 2 ball bearings. And using this mechanism, you can secure the 2 keyboard cases together with just tension. It takes some experimentation, but if it was done right, it was super secure, didn't affect lifting the keyboard, and made it super easy to open and close the keyboard. So over time, this technology spread to more and more boards. The first one I reviewed with it was the JRIS 75, and then subsequently some of the Neo series boards, and now the Crush 80. But there's another thing that complements the catch ball mount really well: the magnetic daughter board. Most custom keyboards have a JST or ribbon cable between the PCB and the smaller PCB, which is called the daughter board, used for the actual USB connection. It's finicky and it takes a while to disconnect and reconnect when you're building a board. So a company called Owllab created a connection between the PCB and daughter board that's magnetic. It just uses pogo pins and it's suspended, so it doesn't affect the feel of the board. And both of these combined make it super fast to take apart the board and rebuild it to your liking. That's something that's been showing up in more and more boards now, and I really appreciate that. The goal should be to make things easier for people to do. And during the COVID boom of the hobby, we saw so many new innovations, like improved stabilizers, new mounts, you name it. I think there's also generally a culture of new tech developments in the keyboard space being just fair game for anyone to do. Not exactly open source, but pretty close. Obviously not to the point of ripping off design, but you get what I mean. The problem is that it takes a long time for gaming keyboards and other pre-builds to catch on, which in hindsight makes sense because they are really meant to be modded. But just like the Rainy 75, the Crush 80 blurs the line between custom keyboard and pre-built, and maybe helps push that paradigm aside just a little bit by offering these features at such an introductory price. And just like the Rainy 75, I expect it to call on more competition in the budget space, which is just where that competition should be. But before we take a listen to what the board sounds like, let's take a look at some of the specs. There's 2 main versions of the Crush 80, the Lite and the Pro. The differences are that with the Pro, you get RGB, a bigger selection of colors, much bigger battery capacity, the Kailh Coco switches, and an FR4 plate instead of a PP one. And there are a bunch of other tiny differences. For both boards, you get a hot swap PCB that supports split space, ISO layout, and stepped caps. And all versions of the Crush 80 have a galvanized catch ball mount, stainless steel bottom badge, and Bluetooth. So you're not missing much, but for the Pro being only $10 more, you're actually gaining a lot for what you pay. And with that, I'll let you listen to what is possibly the best budget TKL in the $100 to $200 range this year.